Welcome to Talking Mopars, episode number 152. On this episode, we're going to be recapping my epic Mopar weekend road trip adventure down to Oregon from my house in Washington State. I got to visit Wildcat Auto Wrecking and the private collection of muscle cars known as the Brothers Collection. So without further ado, if you are a Mopar enthusiast, then you are in the right place. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into the best Mopar enthusiast-driven podcast on planet Earth. And I'm your host, Chris Albrecht, better known as the Mopar Hunter, and this is Talking Mopars.
You're listening to Talking Mopars with the Mopar Hunter, your direct connection to all things Mopar.
Last weekend, I went on a really fun Mopar adventure. I got to visit not only Wildcat Auto Wrecking in Sandy, Oregon, but the next day I got to go on a private tour of the Brothers Collection in Salem, Oregon. I was able to snag a spot in a private tour thanks to my friend Jack from the local Mopar club All Around Mopars. Only 30 people were able to attend, and I am beyond thankful and grateful that I got the opportunity to go since I've been wanting to check it out ever since I saw pictures of the museum online. Same with Wildcat. I've known about that place forever and just needed a good excuse to go down to Oregon and check it out. So Friday after work, I went home, packed a couple bags, and headed out. Now, I live up in Marysville, Washington, which is roughly 4 hours and about 240 miles away from Wildcat. It was going to be a long nighttime drive, but I live for road trips, so I was pumped to hit the open road and go on this epic Mopar adventure. I ended up getting into Gresham, Oregon around 1 or 2 a.m., and I had to take it easy for a lot of the drive because the weather was rainy, foggy, and really just not ideal conditions for trying to get anywhere fast, but I did make it. And of course, lodging was going to be nothing fancy since not only am I cheap, but it was so late at night that I didn't have much of a choice, so I stayed at a Motel 6, and you know, I've stayed at a few crappy no-tell motels in my travels, and this was no different, but it was a place I could rest up for my Wildcat adventure the next morning on Saturday. So I woke up on Saturday morning and headed out to Sandy, Oregon, which is around 30 minutes from where I was staying in Gresham. And Wildcat sits nestled in the back roads amongst the trees in Sandy, Oregon, and it's an awesome drive. I couldn't help but think of all the Mopar enthusiasts who had driven the same back roads out to Wildcat to find treasures for their own Mopar projects, and I actually wished that I had a pocket full of cash so that I could take some stuff home, but unfortunately I didn't. I was really pinching pennies on this trip, but I had to make it happen, so I did. I got to Wildcat at around 10 o'clock in the morning to meet my friend Vanessa, who has worked at Wildcat for 14 years and is actually starting her own Mopar parts business called 5 Point Parts. Vanessa is awesome and was the perfect tour guide. When I got into Wildcat, I immediately realized that I had entered a Mopar lover's paradise. Mopar parts, memorabilia, and collectibles were everywhere you looked, and that's exactly what I had expected to see at a place like Wildcat Auto Wrecking that specializes in Mopars. So I spent just a few minutes browsing everything in their front office and wished I could take everything home, to be honest. There's so much cool stuff at Wildcat. If you're a Mopar person, man, it truly is an awesome place to go check out. Shortly after my tour of the front area, Vanessa took me into the yard to begin our little tour. What a great tour guide she was. One of the things I love about Vanessa is just how passionate she is about her work and Mopars. And when Mopar enthusiasts hang out, it's easy for us to become great friends really quick because we share a passion for the same thing. And as corny as it sounds, it felt like I had known Vanessa for years, and it made the tour feel more like just hanging out with a buddy exploring a place they knew really well rather than a tour of a random wrecking yard with an employee. So that was really cool. The further we ventured into the yard, the more I realized just how massive this place was. 33 years of collection by the owners Ed and Phyllis, and one of the biggest Mopar salvage yards in the country is truly a sight to behold for any car enthusiast, let alone a Mopar enthusiast. Looking at all the cars, vans, and trucks made me think about the fact that all of these Mopars have stories, and the stories all led them here to Wildcat. They would all either be saved or be used for parts, and those parts would be used to go on to help save another Mopar, which is really cool. And as someone who loves, and let's be honest, someone who is obsessed with Mopar projects, Wildcat is like the world's largest toy store for me. Everywhere I looked, I saw an old Mopar with some sort of potential. When I see Mopars in this type of derelict condition, I don't see lost causes. I know I've talked about this in the past. I tend to see the abundant possibilities with these things. Most of the Mopars at Wildcat and the parts as well were pre-1985. So that's okay. That's cool. And I actually, now that I think about it, I did see some body parts from a Dodge Viper that I recognized because they were parts purchased at the Ben Snowbar collection auction from back in my pre-podcast days as the Mopar hunter. And I actually did a podcast about the Ben Snowbar collection. So that was really cool to see those parts and to see the auction tags from those parts. And I really wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't expecting any Dodge Viper parts at this place, but I saw them. And one comment I made, and this is something that I hope to find someday. I would love to find, don't ask me why, a ratty Dodge Viper. I think it would be cool to daily drive a Dodge Viper, but how realistic is that, right? But I don't think I've ever seen so many Mopars and Mopar parts in one place, which, duh, is totally fitting for the place that I was, Wildcat Auto Wrecking. And being a huge fan of vans and trucks, this place was like heaven. I'm always on the hunt for tin grills and van grills, and, whether it be for collecting or whatever. And I think I found where they're all hiding. They're hiding in Wildcat. Wildcat had so many tin grills off trucks and grills off vans that the next time I'm in need, I won't even bother searching eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or OfferUp. I'll just call my friends at Wildcat because they had so many to pick from and so many that were in great shape. So I probably just, I just sold them out of all their tin grills and van grills because there's so many there to choose from that there's no doubt you'll be able to find something good. I also don't think I've seen so many Mopar body parts in one place either. The sheer amount of doors, deck lids, bumpers, and glass is absolutely insane. But again, fitting considering where I was, a Mopar wrecking yard. It's just hard to explain to you the quantity of parts that Wildcat has. There were so many times that I couldn't even imagine, looking at all the stuff, I kept thinking to myself, I can't imagine the overwhelming task of trying to inventory everything that they had there. Looking at the abundance, I also couldn't even begin to imagine what it would be like to attempt to put a value on the entire business. Because there was a period of time, and I don't think it's for sale anymore, but there was a period of time that Wildcat was for sale, the entire business. In total, I spent about 4 hours in the yard, and by the time it was over, I was soaked. I was absolutely drenched. There was a point that Vanessa had finished the grand tour and let me roam free in the yard and taken all the sights, which I did, but it was downpouring off and on. So I was absolutely drenched, soaked, but I was able to document the whole tour that Vanessa gave me and then go back through and take even more pictures and video. And if you're interested in seeing the video, you can find the walkthrough video on my YouTube channel just by looking up Talking Mopars Podcast. And hey, if you aren't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go get subscribed. I'll be posting some cool exclusive content to my YouTube channel here. And it's not just going to be my Mopar adventures, but also my project builds. So if you aren't the YouTube type, you can of course check out the content on my Facebook page, but I could use all the YouTube subscribers I can get, so please help me out. But by the time I was wrapped up checking out Wildcat, like I said, I was absolutely drenched. And like I said, there was an off and on storm, and I got downpoured on so many times. I had to take refuge underneath some of the cars that were stacked up because I was so soaked. And I was so soaked that my phone started acting up, and what I didn't realize is that the water had gotten into the speaker. So I'm not over-exaggerating when I say it was ridiculous. I might as well have just jumped in a lake. But I powered through regardless of weather and had an amazing time. So thank you to my friends at Wildcat Auto Wrecking for being such great hosts and allowing me the opportunity to go check out what I believe to be the best Mopar salvage yard on the West Coast and one of the best in the world. I will absolutely, most definitely be back, both as a customer and as a looky-loo, because I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that I still didn't manage to see. That's how much stuff is at this wrecking yard. One thing I'll say is that I have always been more of the truck, van, muscle car guy when it comes to Mopars, and also turbo Mopars from the 80s. I love those too. But I haven't given enough credit to the pre-60s Mopars. And Wildcat has an amazing inventory of pre-60s Mopars, many of which would make amazing hot rods. And I really like the idea of eventually building some sort of Mopar rat rod or a hot rod, something that you just don't see too often. And Wildcat is the perfect place to go if you're looking to build one of those. So if you want to check out prices on some of the current inventory or get some other info on Wildcat, you can visit them by going to wildcatmopars.com and be sure to follow them on social media at Wildcat Mopars. I had a great time. And I really encourage you guys to go check out the videos just to see. I mean, I can sit here and talk all day, But until you actually see it and see how big this yard is and how much stuff they have, I really can't put into words what it was like. So definitely go check out my videos. And, it was bittersweet having to wrap up my time at Wildcat and head out, but I had to get my lodging arranged in Salem for my private tour of the Brothers Collection the next day. So I said my goodbyes and hit the road towards Salem. I'm always bummed out when one Mopar adventure ends, but thankfully this time around I had another day of adventure planned, so that softened the blow a little bit. For those of you that don't know me, aside from this podcast and Mopars, I not only do the Talking Mopars podcast, but I also have another podcast that I co-host with my friend Matt from Big Block's Garage, and that other podcast is called Talking Paranormal. Matt and I both share an interest in the paranormal and all things weird and strange, so it was an awesome surprise to see a sign on the side of the road just outside Sandy in Boring, Oregon. And yes, the city is really called Boring, but I found it to be quite the opposite because the sign was for the North American Bigfoot Center. I proudly admit that I am a Bigfoot believer, and I stand strong in my belief that there is a large, undiscovered bipedal hominin roaming our remote wilderness, commonly known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, okay? So you can imagine my surprise and excitement in seeing this sign. And of course, I had to stop and check it out. And to my surprise, it was more than just a gift shop, but it was also a museum displaying a large variety of Bigfoot evidence and historical artifacts. They even have a life-size Bigfoot replica that they named Murphy, and it's huge. So if these things are in fact real, like I believe them to be, if you were to run into something, a creature like that in the woods, I was looking at this life-size, about 7.5 foot tall bipedal hominin, and if I came across that in the woods, I would shit my pants. You know what I mean? That's how crazy it is. That's how massive these things are. But the museum was really cool. They even have a small theater to feature short documentaries and films, and it was really a fun distraction. And being a believer in Bigfoot, it was great seeing some of the evidence of the primate's existence in person. And even if you aren't a believer, okay, a visit to the North American Bigfoot Center may just change your mind. That's the level of evidence that they have. It will at least get your gears turning and go, maybe it is possible. But they were kind enough to let me go into the museum and take pictures and videos from inside as well. So I thank those guys for that. And I'm going to be posting that content to the Talking Paranormal social media pages. So if you're interested in that type of thing, feel free to go check out Talking Paranormal. You can find us at Talking Paranormal Podcast on social media, talkingparanormal.com. It's more of a watch than a listen. So I suggest if you're going to listen to the podcast or watch it, go to either YouTube, Facebook, or my preference is Spotify. Spotify, not only can you listen to it as a podcast, but you can also watch the podcast. So if you're into paranormal stuff and strange things, maybe you're just an open-minded person, please go check out Talking Paranormal. It's really fun. And if you could, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's currently undiscoverable because we don't have 100 subscribers. So if you go to any of the podcast episodes, in the notes or in the descriptions, you will see a list of links, and one of the links is to our YouTube channel. If you could just go there and subscribe to Talking Paranormal, I'd greatly appreciate it. So anyways, after my tour of the Bigfoot Museum, I made my way to Salem, where again, I had to stay in another dump of a motel. This time it was the Howard Johnson. I will never understand these places. Why is it so hard to put together nice, clean, and comfortable, cheap lodging for travelers on a budget? It seems like these places were purposefully designed as drug dens and whorehouses. I'm serious. It's really sad. But I can't complain too much because I make these choices when I'm on the road. I could spend more money and be in a nicer place. But if I'm just looking for a place to sleep, hopefully I don't get bed bugs. I always check the bed because I don't want any of that nasty shit coming home with me. You know what I mean? But I will say that staying in places like that just motivates me more to get my boogie van done and on the road, so I can stay in that thing instead of being put in these ridiculous situations. So that's one of my winter goals, along with getting my Roadrunner running and driving in time for Muscle Cars at the Strip in March. And this is actually a great segue into a little spiel about my involvement with the 2023 Muscle Cars at the Strip event. For those of you who haven't heard, my buddy Mike Coffey reached out to me recently asking me if my Roadrunner would be done in time for Muscle Cars at the Strip in March at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. One thing led to another, and it evolved into a project car challenge. I have my 72 344 speed Roadrunner, and Mike has his 1971 Hemi Barracuda that he's building. I reached out to Phil Painter, who is the mastermind behind Muscle Cars at the Strip, and asked him if he would be okay with us promoting a sort of sideshow at the event that we call Project Cars at the Strip. The idea being that it is just a simple challenge, basically encouraging other enthusiasts with projects to get them running and driving in time to participate in the car show at Muscle Cars at the Strip in March. Phil was in support of the idea and gave me the okay to start promoting it, so that's what I did. So now Project Cars at the Strip is official, and we will even have our own little section at the car show at MATS, which is the acronym for Muscle Cars at the Strip, in case you didn't know. I'm really excited to help grow MATS any way that I can and just show my support for the event because it is my favorite West Coast muscle car event, and I'm happy to be a part of it in any way that I can. So from here until March, not only will I be working on my Roadrunner, but I will also be documenting the build, and I'll be heavily promoting Muscle Cars at the Strip, which is happening March 17th through the 19th, 2023 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And you can get more info about MATS by visiting their website at matslv.com. That's MATSLV.com. And be sure to follow MATS on social media at MATSLV. So if you have a project, and it doesn't have to be a Mopar, it can be basically anything American with a V8, we'll probably let in some V6s, but ideally it would be a muscle car. But I won't turn around a cool van or a cool truck if they show up to Muscle Cars at the Strip, you know what I mean? As long as it's a cool project. But if you have a project and it is currently not running or driving and you want to accept the challenge, there's no prize, but it's basically a cool get together of people that love projects and love muscle cars. So we want to have a special project car exhibition at the show. So if you have one, throw up a post on social media, tag me at Talking Mopars Podcast, tag Muscle Cars at the Strip. So you can go at MATSLV and then also hashtag MATSLV and hashtag Project Cars at the Strip and show us a picture of your project and where you're at with it and, say you accept the challenge. All right. We'll see you in Las Vegas. Now, back to my story. So after a night at the Howard Johnson, I was up and more ready than ever to visit what is considered to be one of the most comprehensive private collections of cars in the world, and it did not disappoint either. The Brothers collection is hidden in an industrial park in Salem, Oregon, and you wouldn't even know it's there unless you find the building and pull up to the entrance, which is a large security fence with around 7,000 volts of electrified barbed wire on top. So if you think you're just going to get in, good luck. There really is no signage from the outside of the place other than some airbrush work on one of the roll-up doors, which you can't even see unless you get beyond the gate, and also a neon Chevrolet sign, of all things, above the museum entrance. One thing I can say about the Brothers collection is they're a big fan of automobilia and signage. So you go into the place and it's neon heaven. But the collection, unfortunately, is not open to the public, and the only way to gain access that I am aware of at this time is to get lucky and find out about one of the private tours benefiting charity and get yourself a spot, which I was lucky enough to do. I have been trying to find a way into this collection for a long time, and I missed 2 other tours from earlier in the year that I just so happened to find, so I jumped at this opportunity. The warehouse that this collection is housed in is an astonishing 117,000 square feet and houses north of 300 cars, basically. The entire collection is over 600 cars, but not all are housed in the Salem warehouse. So that's amazing all in itself, you know what I mean? But upon entering the building, the host of the event goes over the list of rules and gives us some basic information on the museum. And when people ask who the brothers are, they'll never tell you, but it's pretty common information. I know who they are. I've never met them or anything, but I know who they are from my research. So I'm going to respectfully say, if you want to know more about the brothers and find out who they are, just do a Google search and you'll figure it out. But after they go through that information, they set the group loose in the museum, and I did not hesitate, and I ran right through the exotics and foreign cars and headed straight for the Mopars. The moment I stepped into the section holding all the Mopars, I was absolutely blown away, and I'm not just saying that. This place is nuts. Not only was the collection astonishing in and of itself, but because of all the awesome neon signage, the entire place had this, breathtaking ambiance, I guess I could say. I don't know how to get much more descriptive than that. It was just awesome. The museum's variety was absolutely insane. And how many times have I said absolutely on this podcast? But the collection of Mopars was unbelievable. I have never seen so many Hemi cars under one roof. And these aren't like rust buckets. These cars have been restored and are amazing. And on that note, I will say that after going through and checking out all these amazing cars, these amazing Mopars, I now have an even higher level of respect for the work that was done on my Roadrunner. So shout out to Pete. Pete Arnold is the guy that I traded my Mr. Norm's truck to for the 72 344 speed Roadrunner. And he owns a body shop in Kirkland, Washington. And he did all the metal work, all the paint work, and the body work on my Roadrunner. And after seeing all the cars in this museum that were considered, top-notch restorations, I can honestly say that my Roadrunner is of that caliber. And I'm super proud of it now. Not that I wasn't before, but until you have something to compare it to. I've never seen this many crazy, rare, and very, very, very valuable Mopars in one spot. So as I'm looking at these cars, I'm going, wow, my Roadrunner is really, really nice. And that's not knocking any of the cars in the collection. They're all beautiful. That's just me saying how beautiful my car is. So I don't know. I guess I just have let me put it to you this way. If my car was done, you could park it in that museum. Now, granted, it's not a Hemi car. It's a 340 4-speed car, non-numbers matching. But you could park it amongst those cars, and it would look like it was at home. That's how nice my car is in comparison to these cars. It's just as nice, if not nicer. So, super proud of my car. When I got home, I just looked at it, and I was like, wow, this thing is gorgeous. And I do that every time. But until you see a collection like this one, like the Brothers collection, and then you see a car like mine, you go, wow. At least for me. I mean, some people may go to that collection and then see my car and, think it doesn't compare. But for me, it just makes me that much more excited and that much prouder of my car. So I'm super, super pumped to get my car up and running and get it over to Muscle Cars of the Strip to show it off for the first time. That's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I've never seen so many rare Hemi cars under one roof. I've also never seen so many rare convertibles under one roof. They have both the first and last Hemi Cuda convertibles manufactured in this collection. And I believe it's the most Hemi Cuda convertibles collectively in one collection. I believe they have the most M51 option sunroof Mopars in this collection, and the most TA Challengers and AAR Cudas in a single collection. All of those are on multi-car lifts on the back wall at a stacked 3 high. It's crazy. You have to see the pictures in the video. And like I said earlier, for the Wildcat stuff, you can find the pictures and video on my social media, or preferably on my YouTube channel. Just amazing. I still think about these cars, and I cannot believe they were all under one roof. It's insane. I also think it's the most shaker cars in one collection, and the list goes on. Most of the cars had boards in front of them explaining the particular car's rarity, and it was really hard to keep track of all the rare cars and remember each one. They even had a Hemi Challenger RT with an N94 fiberglass hood, which is the same hood you typically find on 1970 TA Challengers, and I had never seen one of those before, so that was truly a treat. And I started thinking about the collection and how I doubt anyone in the world had a collection of groups of so many rare and highly desirable Mopars. The most Hemi Cuda convertibles, the most shaker cars. That's what I thought. I thought it was probably the largest collection of shaker hood cars under one roof, the largest collection of ultra rare Mopars under one roof, the largest collection of hood pin cars under one roof. I mean, the collection of Mopars alone, not even including all the exotics and all the other brands of muscle cars, it was absolutely insane. I was there for about 3.5 hours, and I spent that entire time in the Mopar section, getting live streamed video, regular video, and pictures. And when it was all said and done, I got to be honest, I felt that I still didn't get everything I wanted as far as content. And did I get to enjoy it? Yes. I think I could have enjoyed it even more if I just didn't have a camera and I could just walk around and just look. But for me, 3.5 hours just wasn't enough time. I didn't even get a chance to check out the rest of the museum, which was a little bit regrettable, but, I promised myself that I'd find a way back into the museum at some point, short of getting electrocuted by the barbed wire fence. But I couldn't help but think that it was a shame that the collection wasn't open to the public. But, because it seemed to me like a mecca for car enthusiasts, especially those of us really into muscle cars and even the people into exotic cars. They had a lot of Lamborghinis, Ferraris, they had a Bugatti, they had, the list goes on. But leaving Salem was definitely depressing for me after it was all said and done at the Brothers Collection, because it was the end of an unforgettable weekend of Mopar adventures. And I have to admit that I was mentally exhausted from sensory overload for the weekend. I went from looking at what I love, project cars and parts cars and salvage Mopars. There's something about pictures taken in salvage yards that I just love them. They're just as cool, if not cooler, than pictures taken at a place like, say, the Brothers Collection. I got really cool pictures from both places. So I got to go see project cars, essentially. And then I go to this collection that has some of the most desired Mopars on the planet. So it was like, for me, it was crazy. I'm not sure if anybody's ever done that before. I don't think in one weekend anybody else has ever gone to Wildcat and the Brothers Collection just to see the vast contrast between these project cars and these fully restored, impeccable show cars. It was super exhausting from me from a Mopar mental aspect. But as I was driving through Woodburn, I'm sitting there fantasizing and reminiscing about all these amazing cars that I got to see. And all of a sudden, the traffic ahead of me started swerving and hard braking. And it wasn't until I avoided a nasty multi-car collision that I realized what caused it all. And it was what looked like someone's trailer tire and wheel or a spare tire and wheel that had come off and started weaving its way through traffic. It ended up colliding with a couple of the cars, but it caught everybody off guard. And I saw it about 10 car lengths up. I saw cars start going crazy and slamming on their brakes. I saw smoke. It was nasty. But thankfully, I managed to avoid it by using the left shoulder of the freeway as an escape route. But that really snapped me back into the real world, because right before it happened, like I said, I was daydreaming and reminiscing over the amazing weekend and thinking about the craziness that I had just experienced. And, that was a much needed wake up. And I ended up making the rest of the 4-hour drive without incident, thank God. But at an average speed of much faster than the posted speed limit, because at that point, I just wanted to get home. The weekend was done and I wanted to see my wife and kid. And of course, I had so much content to work through. So I had to get home and start working on that so I could share it with everybody. And I know that many other people before me had done videos and pictures of both Wildcat Auto Wrecking and the Brothers Collection, but it's always fun to see it from a different perspective. So if you'd like to see all the content from my adventure, you can find the videos I've already posted and the content that I will continue to post until I've shared it all. What an amazing weekend. And like I said, I'm not sure if anybody's ever done the same adventure that I did. Go to Wildcat and then go to the Brothers Collection. So if anybody has, that's awesome. I would love to see their content, but I'm going to go ahead and claim that I'm the only person on the planet that's ever done that, which is really cool. And I'm honored to have had that chance. So, aside from all that content, I'm also working on a wrap-up video of my Mopar adventures from the year, because lately, the past couple of years, I've been going on all these adventures and it's really, really fun. So I really want to work on a video of a year in review video. But as we head deep into fall and with winter quickly approaching, I will be lining up some fun guests for this show and getting caught up on all my bonus content for paid subscribers, and also getting some old format episodes back again that have Project Car of the Week, high performance parts, and hopefully you all will continue to share your Mopar stories with me to play on the show. It's been a while since I've gotten some Mopar stories. So if you're listening to this right now and you haven't sent me a Mopar story, send me a Mopar story so I can play it on the show. But yeah, that's it. That's kind of the recap of my epic Mopar weekend road trip adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I can't wait to share all the content. Some of it's already been posted, but I still have some more. I think there's a couple videos coming out, and then I haven't even posted the pictures alone yet. I've been compiling some pictures to put into video form so you can just sit there and watch, but I know a lot of people just like looking at pictures too, so I'll be posting all that. But I hope you guys enjoy it all, and that's it. Thanks for joining me. No Mopar left behind. There you have it, my friends. Another episode of Talking Mopars is in the books. For everything you need to know about the show, you know where to go, talkingmopars.com. And you can reach me by emailing Chris at talkingmopars.com or by leaving me a voicemail on my voicemail box at 209-28-MOPAR, and you just might get to hear yourself on the show. So keep sharing those Mopar stories with me and anything else that is on your Mopar addicted mind. Special thanks to my friends at DIYHemi.com. For those of you that don't know, Blake has rebranded DIY Hemi, so although the website is still DIYHemi.com, DIY Hemi is now Sublime Technologies. So if you've been considering swapping a modern Gen 3 Hemi into your classic Mopar, then reach out to Sublime Technologies, get a hold of Blake, and tell them that I sent you. Blake has supported me from the beginning of this show, and I also support him in his mission to Hemi swap the world. Also, don't forget how important it is to keep your Mopar protected from the elements. If you need protection, don't wait. Head on over to TalkingMopars.com, click on the Affiliates tab, and go get your Mopar covered today. Before we shut this podcast episode down, if you want some Talking Mopars merchandise like t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, and more, check out the merch shop on TalkingMopars.com. I am working on some new merch. I said that on the last show, and I am going to let you guys know when that new gear is available. One final thing, if you'd like exclusive bonus episodes of the podcast as well as exclusive bonus videos, they are available only to my Facebook subscribers. Become a Facebook supporter today and get immediate access to those benefits, as well as a monthly supporter giveaway. You can do all that by going to Talking Mopars Podcast on Facebook and clicking the subscribe button. That's it, my friends. Until we talk again, I am your host, Chris Albrecht, and that was Talking Mopars.
Thank you for listening to Talking Mopars, your direct connection to all things Mopar. Until next time, remember, no Mopar left behind.